Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Angie Pineda, and today I will be going over my distance education evaluation on Coursera. So for my paper, I chose to evaluate the Coursera course called Improving Content Mastery with Quizlet. And so before beginning the course, the landing page here gives the learners some context to this learning. For example, it gives an overview of the learning objectives or what will be expected of the learner. It also goes over the duration and language options, and also what's going to be needed to launch this course. And so in this example, it says it has to be a desktop. And it also covers the level of difficulty. So here it shows that it's a beginner friendly, so the learner knows what to expect on that level of difficulty. It also does call out that this will be a guided project. And so a guided project in Coursera, what this means is that it's going to be taught by an instructor in the Coursera project network. And a Coursera project network here, what that means is it's going to be a group of instructors that are experts in the topic of the project or of the skill that is being demonstrated in this course. And so that kind of gives some background exactly of what's going to be expected in this course. So we're going to go through a hands-on experience. And so that's really the purpose of this course. It's to give or to drive skills and to give the learner some hands-on experience or learning. And even though it does say that this course is an hour, what I will show you is ways that the training could be lengthened or shortened. It really depends on the learner and how they choose to go through this course, so it's pretty flexible. So project overview. So when you launch this training, you're going to get some context or some understanding of what this course consists of. And so here it's going to give you a breakdown of what the learner is going to go through and how long it may take. And so the duration that's listed there is kind of an estimate, but again, it really depends on the learner and how fast or slow they decide to go through this training. It's just estimated times. So the first part of this this course is a reading. And so again, it's expected to take 10 minutes, but it's really up to the learner. But in this part of the course, it just gives them an overview of the project. Again, sharing the learning objectives, what is expected of them, and this really gives the learner an understanding of what they will be expected to do, or to do after the end of this course, or what they'll be able to do. Next is the guided project, and this is going to be the really critical piece of this course. Because this is the section where the learner is going to get that hands-on experience. So the learner will be taken through a hands-on project where they're going to work on the tasks in their own browsers while they follow along with an instructor. So this is very self-paced, self-guided. There's no additional requirements or no additional tools needed outside of what is going to be provided in this page. And of course it says it's going to take an hour, but again, I will explain to you how this time duration may be either shortened or lengthened, really depending on the learner. And we're also going to have a quiz. So after you go through that guided project, it is a 5-question quiz, and I will share with you my thoughts on the quiz. And there's a survey, which is optional. So what I noticed when I took this course is that it does not stop me from receiving my certificate after taking the quiz. It's really optional, but if the learner has the time, they can provide their feedback on the quiz. So I'm going to just jump right into the guided project piece of this, because this is where the really important part of this course. So with the guided project, once you launch that page, the learner is going to get an introduction of the layout. Let's explain the purpose of each of these screens. And so you'll see there's a left side and a right side screen. So the right side screen of this is going to be the instructions or instructional videos. It says instructions, but I would call these instructional videos. And so each of the videos here is intended to show the learner a task in Quizlet. So it could be navigating or creating a study set, using, just trying to throw out those verbs, but each of these are tasks, and so the learner will have some goal at the end of each of these videos. And on the left side on the screen, we have a window called My Cloud Workspace. And so this workspace is a window, really a web browser page, that automatically launches Quizlet for you. And so it's ready for the learner to begin using as soon as they'd like. But the purpose of this window is to have the learner follow along with the instructional videos. But the only downfall, the only downfall that I see with this is that there's no enforcement to follow along. It really is optional, so it's up to the learner if they choose to follow along, because this screen can actually be hidden. So it's really up to the learner and their preference if they choose to engage in this interaction. On the right side, you don't see it in the first screenshot, but you'll see it in the second screenshot. There is a player with these instructional videos that does allow the learner to self-pace through this training. So there is a pause button, there's a play button. So if they choose to pause the content, step away, come back, they have that option. If they choose to speed through the training or maybe slow it down, they have that ability as well. And there's also a skip button. With my experience or going through this, I didn't really use it, but I did notice it. And so if the learner chooses to, they can skip sections. If they feel, I already know that, they can skip the section, and there's nothing stopping them from advancing through this course. So after the self-guided project is complete, then they have to complete a quiz. And so in order to receive the certificate, they have to complete a quiz. And so this 5-question quiz is a combination of multiple choice questions, multiple choices, and true and false. So again, it's only 5 questions, and it's an 80% pass. Unlimited attempts, so really you can take it as many times as you'd like. And that's something that I actually had to do when I went through this quiz. The first time I took it, I thought, okay, I know these answers, but there was a trick to this quiz, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But the downfall, the downfall with this quiz is that I felt like there was no way, or there was no piece that assessed the learner's skill. Because it seemed like in the project graded portion, it's very hands-on, navigating, learning how to create and do things, but we don't assess their skill. And so really these quiz questions seem more geared towards making the learner aware of what is available in Quizlet, what are their features, but not really learning how to use the features. And the other flaw that I saw with this quiz questions is that the all of the above button doesn't really work as it should. For example, in this quiz question 2, it says, how can you add students to your Quizlet class? All of these seemed correct, so I said all of the above. And of course it is correct, but I only got partial credit. And so the flaw in this quiz question is that the learner actually has to select all of the answers, including all of the above, in order to get the full points. So design flaw, I'm surprised that it's built this way, but again, that's a flaw. But the nice thing is that there was unlimited attempts, so I could go through this again if I'd like to, and no harm in my grade. I can take this as many times as I like until I get that 80%. So overall, my evaluation and critique in this, so I'm going to split this into some pros and cons. So the pros that I found with this training is that I love that it's independent and self-paced. So I'm not relying on anyone to take this training or this course or this training. I can go through it as fast as or as slow as I'd like. I could leave, I can come back. I love that because also there's learners who may need more time with content. Sometimes they may not understand it the first pass and they have to go back. So I love that it's self-paced. I also love that it supports different learning preferences, and what I mean by that is that there's audio, there's closed captions, and there's also a way to just download the script if someone just wants to read through it. So all of those options are available, really depending on the learner's preference on how they would like to go through this. And I love that the videos are instructions that give step-by-step guidance on how to navigate or how to do things in the system. Really straightforward. There's moments of pause that the instructor gives, so the learner can make sure that they're following along. It's not quick, it's giving the learner time to follow along. And then last, I love that it's a hands-on experience. On the left screen, I love that the learner can follow along while the instructor is going through the same steps. It's always the best way to learn, in my opinion, to really to practice and apply what is being covered. And the cons, lack of teacher presence. There is really no instructor. There really is no instructor in this class. It's just a narration. So because there is no teacher presence, there is no feedback. If I were to make a mistake, or if I maybe didn't understand something or needed clarification, I can't get that feedback because there is no teacher presence. So that's also something that's lacking. No assessment of skills. So as we saw with the quiz, it's just a true or false or multiple choice. And so I can't really apply or test my skills. I guess with the hands-on experience, I guess that was my experience, but I feel like there should have been a way to assess the learner's skills to make sure that they really knew that they knew what they were doing. And then quiz configuration flaws. I pointed that out with the all of the above question. That is a flaw because if I'm choosing all of the above, that should be the correct answer, and I shouldn't need to select all the other options as well. So I think that's a flaw in the quiz. And then lastly, no interaction required. And what I mean by that is the learner really does not need to participate in that cloud workspace. When I first went through this, I chose not to follow along and kind of just click through the videos, and I still got credit. And so there's no enforcement, and I mean, if that's the preference of the learner, sure, but I feel like you really don't get much out of it if you're not required to interact with the hands-on experience. My recommendations. If I were to rebuild this course or have the opportunity to engage with the instructor or the developer, I would recommend including maybe some interactive activities. For example, maybe trigger buttons. I kind of go back to my experience with like simulations. I love trigger buttons because it requires that the learner engages and clicks and not just sit there and let the videos play. And so I would like trigger buttons. I also would have liked to see maybe some quiz questions that are assessing the user's skills, or maybe some kind of simulation piece that tests their skills. Since there is no teacher presence, I would have liked some way to configure feedback. So with the quiz questions, if I were to answer it correctly, it doesn't really tell me why I got it wrong. It just says not quite the right answer or something like that. It doesn't really give me background on why I got it wrong. So I would maybe like to incorporate more feedback. And then lastly, resources. Since there is no teacher presence, I would think resources would be a good way for the learner to follow up, somewhere, someone, find information on, if they don't understand something, now where else could I go for additional support? And so I think that's also needed at the end of the course. I didn't see that. Again, all I saw was a survey. I can provide my feedback and I get my certificate, and that's about it. So those are my recommendations, and that is the end of my slides. Thank you.